Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Indiana Overtime. I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana, Robby Howard, of course, with Inside Indiana. We've been banished from Branch McCracken Court because we believe the women's team is practicing, or that's what it sounds like at least. And so we are in an undisclosed location in Assembly Hall. But we're still here at Assembly Hall where we just saw Indiana put up, probably its worst, I think it's fairly safe to say its worst performance of the season.
Worst performance in the past couple of seasons.
In a very long time. They scored 47 points. They scored 19 points in the first half.
Ugh.
8 points in the first 16 and a half minutes. They shoot 25%. There's a lot of that sound coming from IU fans today. They end up losing to Northwestern 54-47, and just looked like they were just kind of lost out there, especially on offense. Where Crean said after the game that they let their offense define them a little too much. Where if that wasn't there, then that dragged the entire product down on both ends of the court. And Robby, you and I were actually talking about this a little bit yesterday and a little bit before we started this up today. That Crean mentioned that he could kind of tell yesterday, and so could we. I mean, talk about that a little bit about what we saw kind of in terms of the energy level yesterday, even at the press conference.
Yeah, just coming in, we talked to, who was it, Evan Gordon and I think Noah Vonleh yesterday, and they just seemed really sort of dead and sort of lifeless, just not energized, ready to play. And you just sort of got this sense of like, what's going on here? That there wasn't a whole lot of, like, we're going to go and like play Northwestern, and we've got to do this, this, and this, and we got to execute this. They just seemed sort of dead. And I remember talking to you yesterday and being like, wow, that was sort of strange to sort of not see a whole lot of life. And that's what Crean talked about today. He said we weren't mature enough after that win on Tuesday against Wisconsin to come out here and do the things we needed to do and execute. And he said he saw it yesterday too. He said at practice yesterday he saw inconsistencies and a lack of focus, and I think that's basically what we were seeing in the press conference. That he knew that this team just was not going to perform very well given the way that they practiced yesterday. And he said that even before the game this morning that he had the team work on boxing out because he could tell that they were going to struggle boxing out. He said he's never done that on game days. That's just not what he does. I thought it was interesting, a stat that isn't being talked about a whole lot. IU only out-rebounded Northwestern 41-40, and IU is the Big Ten's leading rebounding team, and Northwestern is the worst rebounding team in the Big Ten. So to only win 41-40 on the glass, I thought that was a pretty telling statistic.
Yeah, and there's that old cliche about rebounding is all about effort and all about hustle. And that just wasn't, I mean, it was there in spurts. I mean, Indiana kind of got hot. At the end of the first half, I was able to put up some points to make it, to be within 3 at halftime. And then there were a couple times in the second half where you saw a little bit of life. But for the most part, it was they just didn't look like they had anything together on offense. Yogi Ferrell was saying that Northwestern was kind of bracketing them and kind of getting them closed off into an area where they couldn't move the ball, maybe get the reversals maybe that they wanted to get, and ball movement was just stagnant, which is what really kills this Indiana offense. Is when in the half court when they can't swing the ball around, drive and kick, when they can't get it into Noah Vonleh, that they really can't do much. And speaking of Vonleh, he was really the one, unless you count the Firecrackers halftime show, he was really the one highlight tonight for Indiana. He had his first double-double in more than a month.
December 7th.
Yeah, his first ever Big Ten double-double. He had 17 and 12, which I think is exactly what Drew Crawford had also on Northwestern.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd little thing. And Vonleh actually made a third of Indiana's field goals. He made 5 shots, and Indiana made 15. And that's obviously not at all a recipe for success.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, and he made 2 3-pointers. Again, he was 2 for 4 from behind the arc. I mean,
half of Indiana's threes.
Yeah, he proved that he can step out and actually make those shots. But for the most part, weirdly, most of Indiana's missed shots were short, and they just kept even in the final minutes. They just kept coming up short in a lot of ways. But on their shots, it was very bizarre to watch. I mean, what did you see, I guess, Robby, on the offensive side that we haven't seen at all this year? I mean, what do you think was different
Well, I mean, there are going to be times when your shots just aren't falling, and I mean that's going to happen to every team. It's just part of basketball. It's you play 30+ games a season. It's bound to happen. But like Crean said, you can't let that dictate what happens to you the rest of the game. And I think that all Tom Crean coached teams are sort of built on defense and the idea that if we're able to get some turnovers, that's going to lead to some easy baskets. And that at the end of the day, sure, maybe our threes aren't falling, maybe our mid-range jumper isn't falling, but we're going to be able to stay in the game because we force turnovers, we get easy transition buckets, we dominate the glass and get putbacks and dunks and stuff like that inside with Vonleh. And none of that was happening. They did force Northwestern into 10 turnovers, but they only had 7 points off of those turnovers, so that wasn't really there today. Only had they had 20 points in the paint, not bad, but 12 second chance points, so they just didn't really capitalize on any of the hustle plays. And I still think it comes down to the energy and sort of just lack thereof when you talk about shots being short.
Yeah, and that was apparent throughout the game this afternoon. And another thing that's also kind of been standard for Tom Crean coach teams is getting to the line, getting to the free throw line like crazy. And as you pointed out, Robby, before this, Indiana shot more three-pointers tonight than they shot free throws, where they shot 18 three-pointers and 17 free throws, which is really, it's terrible, and it's the opposite of what Crean always talks about, of what his players have always talked about the past couple of years, of you got to get to the line, you got to get those free points, you got to get them, you got to get them in foul trouble, that just changes the game so much when you can get to the line, and they just couldn't a lot of times, which is, as we've seen in a few games this year, when they can't get to the line, they can't get those points, where they just can't really stay in the game for maybe as long as they can.
I thought that Stan Robinson sort of summarized it best when he said, we took a step forward Tuesday night against Wisconsin, and tonight was 2 steps backwards. And now they've got to do that much work to get back to just where they were Tuesday night. But this was really, they completely went away from their game plan that they've had this entire season.
Yeah, and it's been such a bizarre week where they had the best game of the season, their best game of the season probably on Tuesday, and then by far again they were by far the worst performance, and it's just a difference of 4 days. It's just bizarre, and it's something that I guess is kind of what this team is. It's
a roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just all over the place, and it's hard to predict. It's hard to maybe cope with as a fan, where you go from this ecstasy of beating Wisconsin, of getting that monkey off your back for the first time in 7 years, to losing to Northwestern at home when you shouldn't be losing to Northwestern, when you should score more than 47 points. And maybe it's something that Indiana fans are going to have to live with. Maybe this is a one-time thing where they can't respond well to a big win. But we're going to find out in the next few games, I guess. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. This team is just very confusing to cover and to watch. But they're going to hit the road again. Go to East Lansing.
That'll be a tough game. That's a tough way to respond after this game.
Yeah, it was a tough enough test when it was here at Assembly Hall when Michigan State came, and it's going to be a battle for Indiana to get back to 500 in the Big Ten. Tonight they had a chance to be 3-2 going into Michigan State.
13
3-2
wins.
in the Big Ten. Yeah, 13 wins, and now they're going to be 2-3. It's hard to beat Michigan State anywhere, especially in East Lansing. So they might be 2-4 after that game. So again, it's kind of a very important game for Indiana to kind of get back, take those 2 steps maybe back.
Yeah.
But we'll find out on Tuesday. Thanks for watching tonight, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend. For Robby Howard, I'm Alex McCarthy, and thanks again for watching.